Nervous system neutrality, rebalancing, stabilizing, embodying equanimity. There are three modes of nervous system, central nervous system, that is CNS. Nervous system dysregulation, NSD, can be a cause or an effect of alcohol use disorder. I was saying earlier how oftentimes people that are highly sensitive people and or empaths will have an upregulated nervous system. And we're going to get into the slides of exactly what that means and what the symptoms are of both that and then its opposite, the downregulated. But I got into the reason I was always so loving of the CNS depressant class of substances, that would be alcohol, ethanol, aka I call now I got a new name for it. It's ethanol, the mind body spirit destroyer of health. I like it. Or benzodiazepines, alprazolam, diazepam, lorazepam, clonazepam. I loved all the azepams. Um, or opioids too. All CNS depressants. So if you have an upregulated nervous system and you take something that downregulates, that downshifts your nervous system, and you take it to just the right potency, then you have a regulated nervous system, an alcohol regulated, an alcohol induced nervous system regulation. And what happens after that? The dysregulation gets even worse. Alcohol, if you have an upregulated nervous system and you're drinking alcohol to downregulate, and you do that repeatedly, all that does is that wires you to have a natural, to have a more upregulated nervous system. Sounded like I was drunk when I said that. Upregulated. I should have hiccuped. People with up or down regulated nervous systems are much more prone to relapse. In fact, I've often talked about two of the biggest, what I see as the two biggest relapse or slip triggers with alcohol addiction or any addiction. Accessibility, the easier access, that's the number one, easy access. Number two, stress. The easier it is for you to access alcohol or drug, and the more stress that you're under. And if you couple those together, I've seen that take more people out than anything else. Followed closely, number three, with an upregulated or downregulated nervous system. Upregulated, they have too much anxiety, insomnia, physical, mental, emotional restlessness. Downregulated, they're fatigued, exhausted, depressed, no appetite, no mojo, can't get their hoopsva to go get, they just have no drive. And so that'll often lead people. Imagine your downregulated or upregulated nervous system, and you have easy access, which with alcohol we always do, and you're in high stress. Huh, you better have some serious accountability and supplementation, etc. Boost up your recovery capital. If you look to the left, this is the window of tolerance. This is your sweet spot. It's where you're engaged, mindful, curious, and open. You can effectively cope with incoming stressors. You're creative and you feel engaged and present, and you can effectively cope with emotions. I have been mostly in my window of tolerance. I'd say probably over the past maybe few months, probably 80% of the time of my waking hours, I've probably been in my window of tolerance. And when I have not been, I've been down-regulated, meaning because in the morning times it takes me a while to get going, but once I do, I'm usually good the rest of the day, maybe minus a little break in the midday, like around 12, 1 o'clock. I like to stop. But one goal is to get a bigger window of tolerance. And oftentimes with addiction, it actually gets narrower, unfortunately. If you look on the right, this says that the window of tolerance is our way of conceptualizing our bandwidth or capacity to tolerate intense emotions. And then it shows this visual aid down here. The window of tolerance, if on the left is the zone of tolerance, there's an optimal zone. And then hyperarousal is when you upregulate and get out of your window of tolerance in the hyperarousal state. That's the upregulation. So if you look at it as a horizontal visual representation, up is upregulated. In the middle, you're balanced. And in the bottom, that's hypoarousal. That's downregulation. That's what I was talking about. Slow, fatigue, exhaustion. Then also detached, shut down, disassociated could be symptoms of that. I found this on a really awesome website called Neurodivergent Insights, authored by this woman, Dr. Megan Ann Neff. She says the window of tolerance is like the sweet spot of our nervous system, where our emotions and reactions are just right. Think of it like Goldilocks and the Three Bears. Not too hot, not too cold, but just right. When we're in our window of tolerance, we can think clearly, make decisions, and communicate effectively with others. I mean, that sounds nice, right? You don't have any need to drink alcohol. There's literally no need to drink alcohol. Let's go back here. Our emotions and reactions are just right. This is our window of tolerance of our nervous system. Emotions and reactions are just right. We can think clearly, make decisions, and communicate effectively. That sounds awesome. There's no need to drink alcohol if you're in that state. I can't think of anyone coming up with a good enough reason to poison themselves if they're feeling like that. Here are 5 signs of dysregulation. This was me. When I was in my addiction, this was me. Emotional instability is number 1. Extreme mood swings. Can't control your emotions, etc. Yeah, and with alcohol, alcohol can really do damage to in the dysregulation because it's so sugary, right? It's there. The other drugs aren't sugar. Heroin isn't going to give you hypoglycemia nearly as bad. 100 times worse is alcohol for hypoglycemia than probably any of the drugs. Yeah, alcohol is just crazy for mood swings and emotional instability. Oh, when you wake up after a really good bender, let's say you've gone on a 3-day binge drinking bender, you've binge drinked for 3 days, a binge drinking bender brought on by boredom. Then at the end of that, typically at the tail end, there's serious fear, serious mood swings, sugar cravings, alcohol cravings, mood fluctuations, super anxiety, and it can go from that to super anger, and it can go from that to super like crying. You can be all over the place emotionally, a total effing mess. I don't miss that either. Number 2 is difficulty sleeping. That could be trouble falling asleep, staying asleep, restless mind during bedtime, restless legs, that kind of stuff. Number 3, impulsive behavior. Oh, yeah. Struggles with decision making and either no or very weak brakes, stopping the brakes on impulsive behaviors, not having efficient brakes working. And also, number 4, physical symptoms, fatigue, irritability, tense, tired. Sound familiar? Reactivity is number 5. Hyperreactive, overreacting to things, feeling hypersensitive to certain stimuli, etc. Yeah, these are all, when you start talking about nervous system dysregulation, the highly sensitive person, the empath, trauma, and then upcoming soon shadow work, all this stuff is recipe for addiction. It's just crazy. When you have trauma, that can lead to nervous system dysregulation, which can quickly lead to addiction when you start using substances to regulate. Here's some nice visual aids. On the left, we have the upregulated, aka hyperarousal nervous system states. When we're in a state of hyperarousal, this is when our nervous system is upregulated and mobilized for action. This is the sympathetic nervous system activation, fight or flight. Mind racing, easily startled, agitated, insomnia, decreased appetite, difficulty concentrating, shallow breathing, rapid heartbeat, nervousness, chest pain. And then look down to the bottom. Several conditions are often associated with sympathetic dominance. When people experience the following conditions, their nervous systems are often functioning in a sympathetic dominant mode, hyperarousal. And this is where you find anxiety disorders, OCD, phobic disorders, borderline personality disorder, histrionic personality disorder, paranoid personality disorder, and manic episodes. And then on the right, downregulated, aka hypoarousal states, when we're in a state where you're foggy, confused, fatigued, lethargic, dislike of exercise, brain fog, dissociation, low motivation, slow wound healing, and depersonalization. Okay, so most of my life I was either upregulated or very prone to upregulation. For the past several years, I have not ever, can't remember too many times I was upregulated, but I've been downregulated a lot over the past few years, actually. Luckily, the last few months, I've been doing really, really good. But these are things that just kind of sucks. It's you have to really, really, some of us have to really pay attention more so than other people to these types of things. When you got a sensitive nervous system, which I'm assuming that all of you do, because I don't think I've ever met any person with fit recovery that didn't have a upregulated or downregulated nervous system when they started learning here. Maybe there were some people, but very, very, very uncommon. Okay, and then the following conditions are often associated with the parasympathetic dominance. This is the rest and digest division of the autonomic nervous system. Depression, CFS, that's chronic fatigue syndrome. Schizoid and schizotypal personality disorder. Neither one of those lists are exhaustive. It's all about being able to dial up or dial down your nervous system as needed. Dr. Megan Ann Neff. Hell yeah, I can do that. We can all do that. But a lot of us need drugs to do it. I can, hey, I can upregulate my nervous system as needed. Let me just have an Adderall. Hey, I can downregulate my nervous system as needed. Give me a Valium. Don't have a Valium, I'll drink a glass of wine. That's what the majority, oh, no, not the majority. That's what, hey, it could be the majority of American adults. I'm going to go out on a limb. I'm going to guesstimate that the majority of American adults are doing something on a regular basis to up or down regulate their nervous system that is not adaptable. So, for instance, alcohol or benzos, benzos can be adaptable. Actually, if you're taking them, short term for anxiety, panic, something like that, but alcohol's not too adaptable. 10 proven methods to regulate. Here we go. If you want to print this out, put it up. To remind you, deep breathing is number 1. Mindfulness meditation, 2. Guided imagery, tapping. If you haven't, in fact, the emotional freedom technique, tapping, I've heard more good things. I've never done it, but I have heard more good things about that for regulating the nervous system than maybe anything else. A past fiance of mine told me about it. And since then, I've heard from so many people that have had hardcore fear, anxiety, or upregulation of some kind. Did the tapping emotional freedom technique downregulate, activate the parasympathetic nervous system? Yeah, really, really good stuff. And then progressive muscle relaxation. Yeah, that works great. If you go onto YouTube and just type in, progressive muscle relaxation, put on your headphones, lay down, that down regulates you really, really good if you're, anxious or stressed out in any way. 7 binaural beats and isochronic tones. We've talked about these. Nature immersion, self-care, yoga, tai chi, and qigong. That's not it. And we've got 15 more strategies. Deep sleep, uninterrupted 7 to 9 hours. I had that the past 2 nights in a row after 3 or 4 nights of terrible sleep. Terrible, terrible sleep. And what happened was those nights that I wasn't sleeping well, I wasn't taking omega-3s. I am one of the people, and there's a lot of us, that we sleep way better with quality omega-3s with dinner, or at least sometime during the day. It doesn't have to be a fish oil pill either. It could be, eating seafood. But I didn't have any omegas for a few days, and there's no sunlight either. So I have to have something. As soon as I started to take the wild Alaskan fish oil again, boom, and sleeping like a rock. Number 2, slow walking. You can also do qigong walking, mindfulness walking. Here's one of my favorite ones. Number 3, holding hands with a loved one or cuddling up with a loved one for a comedy or uplifting film. Deep tissue massage, aromatherapy, unplug for a half day or a whole day. That means no tech, no technology, no screens, none of that. Cold therapy we've talked about, and journaling, and nutrient bathing and hot baths with, magnesium chloride or sulfate with CBD crystals, lavender, etc. Number 10, heart rate variability, vagus nerve exercises. 11, neurofeedback. 12, nutrition. 13, supplementation, for instance, like a good B complex, like taking 2 B complex capsules in the morning after you eat breakfast. I have to take B complex. I don't take it every day, and I take the methyl one for the genetics that I have. But yeah, I have to take B complex at least a few days a week, or I start to get. I can feel like I'm starting to get stressed out, like I'm starting to be not grounded. I really love B complex as a strategy to regulate. And plus, L-theanine, chamomile, there's so many things. It's ridiculous. That's why I put supplementation. 14, reading. And 15, drinking tea or even coffee.